Welcome back to the program. So, I'm sure many of you probably watched the Super Bowl. Some of you did not. You did whatever you did. But one thing that I did notice is the majority of the commercials were at least not weird and like pro LGBT or anything like that. There was a lot of like nostalgic commercials. There was some semi patriotic commercials. One of them that stuck out the most was the one from Canada. Ontario, Canada, actually put out a commercial talking about how they love America and they want to work with America. And it was basically a big old ass kissing, pretty much, to President Trump. Um, but there wasn't anything, just too out there. I mean, most of the ads were, interesting, kind of funny. There was one with Seal, the singer, actually Seal's face on a seal, the song Kiss from a Rose. It was kind of funny. The game itself, I mean, the Eagles crushed them, really. I mean, it was just an absolute just beat down, basically. The Eagles reminded me of President Trump and Kansas City always winning and, right, the entrenched administrative state. Well, they got their ass whooped today as well. But the halftime show, a lot of people are saying that it was terrible, it was boring, they didn't like it. The only thing I can say about it is everybody was dressed. There was nobody showing any body parts. It didn't have any kind of themes that looked satanic or anything like that. As a matter of fact, the choreography and the dancing and things like that, everyone was dressed in red, white, and blue. And at one point, they even got together and made like an American flag. And the actor, Samuel L. Jackson, was a big part of it. He was kind of like popping in and out of the show, and he was dressed as Uncle Sam in red, white, and blue. So the theme was certainly not woke or anything having to do with what we've seen in the past. So that was very, very encouraging. But I don't know. A lot of people panned it. They said that it wasn't a good performance. I'm not a big rap fan, so say la vie. But let's get on to some interesting stuff. So the DOGE team, okay? I'm going to go through some of these people, who they are, things like that. But President Trump has now given Elon Musk the permission to hire an additional 45 DOGE members. 45 more. So that brings it up to 53 total, including they actually have a director that we'll talk about. But right now, they have gotten into, are you ready for this? 14 federal agencies. Obviously, we know all about USAID, that being the biggest one, of course. But they also have gotten into the Center for Medical Services, CMS. They've gotten into the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. That's right, the CDC they are getting into. They are into the Health and Human Services right now as well. They are getting into the Treasury, although they have been blocked by a left-wing judge. But it looks like Elon has kind of worked out an agreement to where he can still get in there and get a lot of information and basically give a synopsis of what needs to be cut, what needs to be changed, things of that nature. Labor Department, they are also in. They're in the Energy Department right now as well. And what is this other one right here? They are in the National Oceanic and Aviation Administration. I think that's what NOAA stands for. They are in the Department of Education. Obviously, we saw these screaming demon leftists trying to get in and they couldn't, right? And they are also in the Environmental Protection Agency. And they are now also in FEMA as well. So that is quite a bit. Now, obviously, they're in the infancy stages as in all of them, other than USAID. They're almost done with USAID, as a matter of fact. And that one was the biggest target. That one was the worst. But that doesn't mean that we're not going to find so much more in the Department of Education. The Department of Labor, I'm sure, is going to be corrupt as hell. NIH is going to be corrupt as hell. So many of these, the CDC is going to be corrupt as hell. And so all of these are going to be coming in the following weeks. And like I said, they're hiring an additional 45 members of the DOGE team, which I thought was pretty cool. The other thing is that apparently President Trump has announced tonight that I don't think I have one on my desk. No, I don't. I was looking for one. I was going to grab a penny. No more pennies. So if you have pennies and you have them in jars in your house, don't throw them away. They might be worth a lot of money because President Trump has said that no more pennies are being produced in the United States of America. This is from him on X. For far too long, the United States has minted pennies which literally cost us more than 2 cents to make. So imagine that. This is why big government and government bureaucracy never is a good steward of our money, ever. They are literally producing pennies that cost them 2 cents to make, okay? Only a stupid government would say to that, yeah, that makes good sense financially, right? So anyway, this is what he's saying. This is so wasteful. I have instructed my Secretary of the U.S. Treasury to stop production of all new pennies. Let's rip the waste out of our great nation's budget, even if it's a penny at a time. Little smart reaction there. But look, I mean, pennies, I mean, they've been talking about getting rid of pennies for years. Everything is digital. Everything is with your card and, you know, the ATM machines, and you swipe your card and put this over here and all. So, I mean, pennies are kind of obsolete. But I wouldn't throw out the old ones. If you have old pennies, who knows? I mean, they could be worth a lot of money in 10, 15, 20 years. So I'd hang on to them. Maybe give them to the grandkids. So that was interesting. So no more pennies. I like how he can just say, today's going to be the day we're eliminating pennies. You know, gotta love it. So, okay, let's go through this last part here. So how is President Trump doing? That's what we want to talk about. But actually, before I get into that, I don't want to jump ahead. I want to talk about the Silicon Valley hatchet man that was chosen by Elon Musk to lead the DOGE Young Nerd Squadron. And then I'll get into how he's actually doing. The Department of Government Efficiency's Nerd Squadron is being led by a heartless, this is from dailymail.co.uk, that's the source. So if it's left-leaning, you might want to take that into consideration. As a heartless CEO known for his ruthless approach to layoffs, according to a bombshell allegation. His name is Tom Krause, and he has been installed as the Treasury Department's fiscal assistant secretary, replacing a longtime career civil servant. The Silicon Valley executive is a close ally of Elon Musk and has been tasked with managing the nation's payment system. He will be working closely with the 6 baby-faced men handpicked by Musk to help trim the fat on public spending. Look for the thumbnail because I will put all of these people in the thumbnail so you can see them. His first days have already been marred by controversy and a lawsuit over claims that he was given inappropriate access to the payment systems and tried to, quote, unlawfully freeze payment instructions given by Congress. Again, this is left-leaning media writing this. Krause is a shrewd businessman who is CEO of Cloud Software Group, a holding company following the merger between software firms Citrix and TIPCO. Krause was brought in as a CEO for Citrix in 2022, where he established his formidable reputation as a hatchet man, laying off thousands of employees to haul the companies out of its $15 billion of debt. Krause was selected for his track record of squeezing customers and slashing overhead. Almost immediately upon starting with Citrix, he announced 1,000 layoffs, followed by several thousand more, equivalent to 15% of the entire workforce. He also mandated a return to the office. Gee, where did they get that one from? Even though Citrix products are designed to facilitate work from home. Krause also only abandoned the unpopular directive when it became apparent that he could save on the cost of running an office. Bonuses, thank you, days for managers who worked overtime, and Citrus branded merch were all jettisoned in the same name for frugality. By the start of last year, a further 12% of the workforce had been axed by Krauss. It was so cold, it was literally like, okay, you're being laid off. Your access to the system is going to be cut off in an hour. Former employee David Morgan, a disabled veteran, told Prospect. He runs everything into the ground. Look at the time at Broadcom. The dude is a heartless person who should not be in any line of business, but especially not in the government sector. That is exactly who you want to be in the government sector. Someone that's going to be ruthless and is going to say, sorry, but we're done spending money on terrorism and DEI and all this other garbage. He will be working closely with these baby-faced men, including Cole Killen and Ethan Shawotron, handpicked by Musk to help trim the fat on the public spending. He'll be joined by Akash Baba and Luke Farrater, as also part of the Nerd Squadron. The youngest member of Musk's elite squad is Edward Kuristin, and he is just 19 and a student at Northeastern University in Boston. He is working closely with Berkeley graduate Gavin Kilger. Right. Crouch's cutthroat approach has landed him in more than one legal battle after he refused to pay an invoice for the remaining Citrix merchandise and a separate bill for financial services from another company. Both instances were settled out of court. The criteria for DOGE is how many you have fired, how much you enjoyed firing people, and how little you care about the impact on people's well-being, an anonymous user posted online after they were laid off. No wonder TK, Tom Krauss, was tapped for this job. He's their dream employee. Krauss was tapped to take over after then acting Treasury Secretary David Liebrecht was ousted from the position shortly after refusing to hand over access to the Treasury Department's payment system. Senator Ron Wyden of Oregon of the Senate Finance Committee has written a letter to Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent demanding clarity on Krauss's intention. Krauss has claimed that he only wanted to halt payments so that he could review them, per emails obtained by CNN. When advised that such actions could pose legal risk, he threatened that Liebrecht could face his own liabilities if he refused to comply, per the emails. He and DOGE were dealt a temporary blow after a judge handed down a restraining order severing access to systems which process 88% of the federal government's payments. The Trump administration said that it hired Krauss as a consultant for DOGE to work as a special employee of the Treasury Department. Krauss CEO has more than 20 years' experience in leading tech companies and previously served as an executive officer of Broadcom Incorporated. He is an economics graduate of Princeton University and began his technology career with Robertson Stevens and Technology Crossover Ventures. So there you have it. You have tech people, tech guys, tech kids, all going into these different areas. They are kicking ass and taking names. They are locking these people out. Elon has already said he's going to order another 100 more of these sleeping pods, basically, that I guess they're like a fold-out bed, but they're like a really nice bed, like a thick, like 8-10-inch mattress, like really comfortable. And they have to do with like somehow they check your vital signs and they tell how deep of a sleep that you're having. Like it's really kind of like high-tech type of stuff. He's just ordered another 100 or more of those beds. Like I said, they're hiring another 45 people. So this is going to go throughout the entire government. It's over. They're not going to stop this. We are going to get to the bottom of everything that has been hidden from us for decades upon decades upon decades. Okay? So that is what is happening. Now, this poll, I want to go over this poll. This is a CBS poll. Okay? So that means this is left-leaning, left media, whatever you want to call it. But how is President Trump doing? What do the American people think? Is it these crazies that are out there protesting? Are they the majority? Do people really feel that way? Or are they actually happy about what's happening? Well, I think you already know the answer to that. CBS News poll, Trump has a positive approval amid energetic opening weeks, seen as doing exactly what he promised to do. with most describing him as, quote, tough, energetic, focused, and effective, and doing what he promised during his campaign. President Trump has started his term with net positive marks from Americans overall. Many say he's doing more than they expected, and of those who say this, most like what they see. Very few think he's doing less. His partisans and his voters in particular say he's got the right amount of focus on matters like ending diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, and deporting those who are in the country illegally. His deportation policy finds the majority approval overall, just as most voters said they wanted during the campaign, and that extends to even sending troops to the border. That's right. Everybody is happy pretty much with what's going on. One key issue looms. Most Americans say the administration isn't focused enough on lowering prices. Inflation was a key reason Mr. Trump won the election. Okay, let's stop there. These people are obviously not very bright, because when you are removing hundreds of thousands of people from this country that are costing so many millions and billions of dollars in welfare, in handouts, and free insurance, and free tuition, and who knows what else, it's going to take some time for that to obviously come into effect. The other thing is ripping out the DEI, ripping out all the wokeness, ripping out all these things, and closing down the border. Well, now we've got to get to the energy and things like that, which of course he's going to get to. He's already signed to open up ANWR, the Alaskan National Wildlife Refuge. He's already signed an executive order to build the Keystone Pipeline. He's already signed another executive order for the Department of the Interior to do more drilling and exploration. So again, it's going to come. Is 2025 going to be a great year financially for us? No. No, it's not. Because this is going to take a lot of time to go through the system. What he did in the first month, let's say, will be reflected in about August or September of this coming year. What he's going to do in March and April and May is going to be reflective of the beginning of 2026. I believe, and I'll say it now and I'll say it then, I believe that 2026 is going to be an incredibly strong financial year for this country. Because I think by that time, a lot of this stuff is going to have settled in. We are going to be in a better situation overall. The tariffs are going to start coming in big time. They're going to lower rates. Inflation is going to go down. Drilling, exploration, all those things. It's going to bring energy costs down. We're going to open up the economy. And trust me, the economy, the markets, all of it, it's going to skyrocket in 2026. But these are just some of the descriptive things. Describe Donald Trump. 69% say he's tough. 63% say he's energetic. 60% say he's focused. 58% say that he is effective. And that's with everyone. So we're talking Republicans, we're talking Democrats, we're talking whoever, okay? And then it goes a little bit further and it talks about how's he doing on his campaign promises. 70% what he promised in the campaign he is doing. 30% said different from promised. But those different 30% are probably left-wing idiots that didn't want him to do what he's doing now anyway. Trump's overall job approval is a positive 53% and a negative of 47%. Trump's immigration policies, 59% approve of these deportations, 41% disapprove. Sending U.S. troops to the U.S. border, 64% of Americans approve, only 36% disapprove. And then large detention centers while determining who should be deported, 48% favor that, 52% don't favor that. But here's the thing. The thing is that they are short-sighted here. You have to build these things in order to figure out who you're going to deport, which is the majority of these people. And these criminal aliens are going to be going to Gitmo, they're going to be going to other places, but they're also going to be flown out and back to their countries. But the ones that are still here, for whatever reasons, Maybe they're in some type of legal situation. They're fighting to be, to stay here. I don't know what it might be. We've got to hold them somewhere. So let's build some of these detention centers. So that one's almost split even anyway. Israel and Gaza. Trump's handling of the Israel-Hamas conflict, 54% approve, 46% disapprove. But this is an interesting take right here. We remember when President Trump said that he was going to, quote, take over Gaza, right? He was going to turn it into, hotels and casinos or whatever he said, the Riviera, the Gaza Riviera. He said something like that. Well, the interesting thing is the American people understand from experiencing who President Trump is. They're starting to understand that when he says something, it's business oriented and it doesn't necessarily mean what he's talking about. Like, even though he's going out and saying that Canada should be the 51st state, he doesn't really mean it. He means that we ought to be cutting back on how much money we're spending with them. And he's saying that you ought to be a state if we're going to be giving you all this money. So again, he wants to cut that back. He understands the implications of having them as a state. It wouldn't be good at all for the country. So again, I wouldn't lead too much into that. But even a lot of the American people understand this. 13%, it says U.S. trying to take over Gaza would be. 13% say it's a good idea. 47% say it's a bad idea. But 40% think that President Trump is using it as leverage. So that goes to show you the majority of people, if you take the 40 and the 13, understand that President Trump says things in order to facilitate a reaction, okay? And I think that's what I get from this, basically. And it seems like the most people, are fine with the tariffs. They kind of understand. Elon Musk and DOGE, influence over government operations and spending should be. 23% say a lot, 28% say some, 18% say not much, 31% say none. So they're still in shock, right? They're still in shock that all of these agencies are being basically audited from the top down. And the American people have never seen this ever. And because they have never seen it on this scale, they're afraid of it, right? People are afraid of change. They don't know what's going to happen. The people that are paying attention, like me and you and many even in the middle, they understand. And honestly, a lot of Democrats are starting to see all this stuff. They're on X, they're getting the news reports, and they're pissed too. So this opening up of the government is the cleansing. This is the way to drain the swamp. You open up the swamp, you have a spotlight where you can see all of the swamp monsters. They're not hidden in the murky waters anymore. And that is the power of DOGE. Those are my thoughts. What are yours? Put them down in the comments below. We'll see you in the next one.